Hello all, welcome to Burnhams Breakdowns. On this YouTube channel, you will find all things NHL Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Be sure to like and subscribe and get the word out there to any hockey fans you may know. I'll also be over on Instagram at Burnhams Breakdowns, where you can give me a follow there as well. As stated before, the channel will cover all things NHL in a 30-ish minute video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where I'll also post a trailer-like clip the morning of on the Instagram going over and previewing the video for that night. With all that said, also PS, I'll be doing a lot of the videos outside as I have my first baby on the way in November, and currently our house is being rearranged. So with all that said now, let's get into it. Where today we will cover the Stanley Cup champions, the Carolina Hurricanes, and how they got to where they got to, as well as the recent Brady Tkachuk trade that actually just went down a few minutes ago for my Ottawa Senators, the team that I cheer for the most. Let's go. Okay, so on today's episode, we're going to start with talking about the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes were a really blue-collar team this year. They really worked hard as a unit, starting with Rod Brind'Amour throughout their lineup. This is a team that's battled a lot of adversity throughout the last few years. They've been a team that's had their fair share of exits in the playoffs, especially in the third round, where they've seemed to have a lot of demons there and haven't been able to get over them. They've really had a tough time winning games in the third round as a whole. Where they seemingly just shut down. They seemingly get swept every year, and that seems to be their kryptonite, especially against the Florida Panthers. Fortunately for them, this year the Florida Panthers were really banged up with injuries, starting with their captain, Alexander Barkov. Matthew Tkachuk was out for a long portion of the season. So Florida never really stood a chance, and injuries ultimately prevailed, and they ended up not making the playoffs. So with that, Carolina had an easier route than they've had in years past, starting with my Ottawa Senators. Ottawa in the first round really had a tough go. They couldn't seem to make a lot of connected plays. They really were trying to make individualistic plays, which is something that they didn't have success with down the stretch, which was weird because they worked well as a unit down the stretch, and things ultimately changed in the playoffs, where Carolina just shut them down. They stuck to their guns. They play that really strong defensive system where they don't give you much. They're not really trying to score and create a ton of offense, but they're going to shut you down. They're going to play a system where they're trying to limit what you create and ultimately pounce on your mistakes. And that's essentially what they did against Ottawa. It seemed like every time Ottawa had a grade A opportunity and it didn't go in the net, Carolina went right back down and scored. Or Carolina went right back down and gained momentum. Or they drew a penalty. Or they just found a way to ultimately change the game and get the momentum back in their favor, which is something that a young team like Ottawa could learn a lot from going forward. We'll get to it later. The trajectory of where Ottawa might be going now might be completely flipped with the recent news, but in saying that, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from a team like that. Carolina plays the right way. They play a system in which it leads to winning, and it looked like in the past that they maybe didn't have the scoring or that top-end echelon guy that could get them over the top. But they stuck to their guns, and they knew that system would be successful. I think they believed in it all along. I don't think they believed that they were, maybe at the time when they went out and got Rantanen, they believed that maybe they needed that star to get them over the top. But I really think internally, a lot of those guys, like your blue collar Seth Jarvis's, your Jordan Stahls, your Jordan Martinuk's, like all these guys, I think truly believed internally that they had a crew that could get it done, and that they just needed to stick with it, and ultimately that's what they did, and they got it done. And again, it's a tribute to their system. It's attributed to the guys they have in that room, the culture they've created. And Jordan Stahl said it best, like the ones that jump ship, like Gensel and Rantanen, those are really the only two that didn't stick with that team for the long haul, that signed on with them at any point, except for Gostisbehere, who ultimately came back after 1 year with Detroit. But the point still stands that they're a hard-working group, not an abundantly skilled group, but skilled enough to ultimately to get it done, with guys like Stankoven and Blake and Hall and Aho. Like, they have skill, but what they have is will. They have a team that bought in together. It's for the next man in line, and that all started with their captain, and that's why I ended up winning the Conn Smythe. Like, it was truly the way you envision a Stanley Cup dominant championship to go down. 16-3. The captain led by example, played the best hockey of his career, both defensively and offensively. You could see there was just this utter desire to win, and it bled through the group. Like, every guy seemed dedicated to blocking shots, to chipping pucks in when maybe they had an opportunity to carry it. Just little things that ultimately prevail in the playoffs and when the games get going tough. And they didn't seem to let the outside noise get to them like it did in the past, and they didn't seem to let maybe some demons of the third round and other past experiences. Nothing seemed to phase this team. They seemed like they were committed. They seemed like they knew what kind of group they had, and they were driven to do it, and nothing was going to phase them this year. And when you see a team like that, I kind of seen it right in the first round. You know they're destined to do something special, and you know it's just a matter of time. And in years past, maybe it looked like they would get down a little bit when the times got going tough. And this year, whenever the momentum got shook against them, they responded. They looked like a veteran group. They looked like a group that's been there before. They looked like a team that ultimately, it's surprising that they haven't won already, to be completely honest. And the nice thing about this team going forward is that their window is wide open. Most of their guys are locked up. The Stankoven and Blake deals look like absolute steals. You got Blake on an 8x5. You got Stank on an 8x6. Like, they're not going anywhere, this team. And Florida now getting Brady Tkachuk, which again we'll talk about later on. They're now way more well equipped to battle it out with these guys in the third round going forward, and I think that's what we're going to see. But yeah, kudos to the Carolina Hurricanes. It's been a long time coming, and it's nice to see a team like that prevail when they've had their share of ups and downs, and to see them come over the top and maybe not be that recognized star-studded team or that team where all the free agents just want to jump ship and go to. Like, yeah, Ehlers joined, but like ultimately they built this team from the ground up, and most of the guys that they have been there since they've been drafted, or at least have been there a good chunk of their careers and played most of their developmental years for that system. So let's look at the roster now a little bit and just break down kind of how this team was built and how they got to where they got to. Because ultimately, no matter how good of a team you are, you're gonna have to have guys that step up. You're gonna have to have guys that score. You're gonna have to have guys that defend. You're gonna have unsung heroes, which we'll talk about. Like, they literally had it all. They had the makings of a Stanley Cup team that you just think of, and that like, again, you're surprised that they haven't done it before, to be completely honest. So let's get into the roster. Starting with the top line. The top line had its share of ups and downs throughout the playoffs too, and it was kind of just honestly a symbol of the way the Carolina ups and downs in the playoffs have went throughout the years, to be completely honest, where maybe there was times where they didn't get a lot of production from these guys, or maybe they looked like they were playing from the perimeter or couldn't get to the inside, whatever the case may be, but they ultimately all had their big moments. Aho scored a big goal in the finals. Jarvis had a game winner in the finals. And Svechnikov, he had that big 2-goal game also in the finals. So they came through and it mattered. And that's ultimately what makes a superstar is, yeah, you can have your ups and downs, and maybe you can have a stretch of 5 points in 10 games or something like that in the playoffs. But when the going gets tough and you need a goal from your team, that's when it matters. And these guys ultimately all had that moment in the sun when they scored a big goal that ultimately prevailed in a win. So in saying that, kudos to those guys. All high echelon guys. Svechnikov, a second overall pick in 2018. Has he lived up to a second overall pick status? I would say now, having that cup ring around his finger, you could definitely say the answer is yes. But as a whole, throughout his career, there were a lot of question marks with Svechnikov and a lot of doubts on, is this guy a true difference maker, or is he just maybe more of a complimentary top sixer, or is this guy just a skilled, gritty winger that can go dry in stretches and maybe you can't win with in the playoffs? I feel like those conversations were out there about Svechnikov, but a lot of those have been probably answered now. Again, like I said, a cup ring puts a lot of questions to bed. And with Svechnikov, he had that big 2-goal game. I thought he was physical throughout the playoffs. I thought you've seen a lot of the skill that maybe hasn't always shone through, but made him a second overall pick ultimately in 2018, and what made him this dream power forward back in the day when he went second overall. Aho's a great story too. Again, a Carolina find in the second round back in 2015, which now feels like a long time ago, but again, it just shows that their drafting has been star-studded all the way back to 10, 15 years ago now. Like, they've been finding guys forever, it feels like. And Aho's another guy that in the second round 1 year out. He plays in the Liga for 1 year, and then the next year he's in the NHL putting up 50 points. He's been a consistent 80-point center. He's a two-way guy. He skates well, creates, plays on both sides of the puck. Like, there's nothing more you can really ask for. And yeah, there were times where he was getting questioned in the playoffs and criticized, and rightfully so. He's more of a skilled perimeter guy, but at the same time, you're going to get a skilled perimeter play that shines bright in the playoffs every once in a while, too. And he got to the inside more and more as the playoffs went on. I found in that Vegas series, he was driving the net. He was trying to create more that way instead of just maybe finesse plays from the outside, which he can get away with in the regular season. But again, this is an 80-point centerman that it just shows you can win with these type of guys. Two-way, not ultimately superstar skill, but skilled enough, can make plays when the times get going tough enough to get you by. And yeah, he might not be a 120-point center, but an 80-point center, again, that's two ways. And now they've shown he's a winner. So I don't think anyone's going to question Aho anymore either. Jarvis. Love Jarvis and the buddies. Every time I see that guy and all the things on Instagram, it just makes me think, like, if one of my friends or even me, if we would have made it, like, that would have been us if we ever got that far. We would have been just partying, living it up, just soaking it up, living the dream as if we were the ones that made it. Like, I love that. So seeing him win it was definitely a special moment for me. Love the way he plays. Two-way player, gritty, scores. He's got skill. He's got hard skill. Gets the dirty areas. Works like a dog out there. Like, and that's going to be the theme of a lot of these guys as we keep going here, is just utter dogs. They work so hard, and that the blue collar mantra of that team is real. Like, you can see it, you can feel it, and that's, you want to see that out of a winner. Like, as a hockey fan, you want your team to build that way and to win that way, and he's no different than that with Jarvis. Stankovic and Blake will package them together. Two little buzzsaws, uber skilled, hard-working, fun to watch. Just young guys that are just finding a way to make an impact in the league. That's small. They're small, but they're making an impact because they work so hard. They're dogs on pucks. As a small guy myself, I definitely envy the way they play and definitely admire those two. And I'm just so happy to see, like, that style of player and that archetype work still in the NHL and show that maybe you don't need to be a 6'4" bruiser all the time or just have all the physical tools. Like, these two are smart. They're skilled. They know where to be. They know how to play at their size. And it's fun to see guys like that win and show that archetype can be successful in the league. Taylor Hall. I have my qualms with Taylor Hall a little bit, especially with that hit he had on Jake Sanderson in the first round. But, you know, he's a vet that's been around the league. He's got a Hart Trophy, first overall pick. Like, he's got a lot of pedigree. So it's good to see those guys add cups to their trophy case as well, because, you know, like, it's everybody's dream. It's everybody's ultimate pinnacle. But for those guys, it really is. Like, they've had a lot of fame in their life already, so for them to win, especially later in their career, you can just tell that it seems that much more special for a guy like Hall, and good for him. I'll leave it at that with him. Third line, like, fly guy, as they call him, Ehlers, like, he was so fun to watch all playoffs, burning up and down the wing. Like, he just looked like he was in a system where his play was going to flourish, and if they could bury him like they did on the third line to kind of just balance out their skill, it just made them so much deeper. And he bought into that, and you could tell that he was fine with playing that role, and maybe even wanted that role because he knew he could really flourish with those matchups and really expose those third pairings, because that's what he got a lot of. And as the playoffs went on, him and Stahl really started to score. Maybe they got a little bit tougher matchups, deservingly, but early on, Ehlers was dominant. His feet, man, like, that first game, I can remember where he scored that first goal. What was it, 25 seconds in? Like, it just felt like from that moment on, he was their free agent purchase. He made his big splash, started the playoffs off, or started the Stanley Cup off on the right foot. Like, it felt like everything was coming together at that moment for Carolina. Like, that signaled like that was the move left for them that they needed to make in order to get over the top. So in saying that, kudos to Ehlers, great career, 60, 70 point guy that just maybe didn't always cut it in the playoffs in Winnipeg before, and maybe got criticized for being soft, but maybe it was also a system thing. And ultimately, a great skilled guy that it's nice to see a guy like that win too. Then you got Jordan Staal. Like, what more can you say about that guy in the playoffs he had? Like, when you envision a captain and you envision a leader, and maybe a guy that isn't your most skilled guy or is a bottom six captain, like every now and again you see that in the league, and Stahl's a good example, obviously, where they're not your top six scoring guys. They're maybe not on your power play. They're maybe used more in a defensive role, penalty kill role, and they're later in their career, but they still have that veteran leadership and can still play. But Stahl really turned back the clock this playoffs. I heard it a couple times where he looked like a prime Eric, and it's true. Like he was getting to the net front. He was presenting his stick very well for tips and rebounds, and he looked like he was intentionally trying to add an offensive element to his game, which maybe he doesn't overly try to in the regular season because he's so focused on defense and shutting down other teams' top guys. But he freed himself up a little bit that way, I found, this playoffs, and he's so effective. He's so strong. You're not going to knock that guy off of pucks or knock him out of position in front of the net. So you could really see he was using that to his advantage this playoffs, and that's what made him successful. And I think that's going to lead younger guys, these big 6'3", 6'4" centers when they're coming up to play that way, to get that skill at tipping pucks in front of the net and crashing the net and getting rebounds and presenting as options and finding different lanes to the net and things like that that make those big, maybe less one-on-one type skill guys more skilled in those situations, if that makes sense. So that was really nice to see for Jordan Staal. What a run. And a Carolina Hurricane through and through. Been there for 17 years, I think that it was. Or been in the league 17 years, but he's been with Carolina for a majority of that. I think it's 12, something like that. So just a Carolina Hurricane through and through, and nice to see a captain that persevered, signed a long contract, but stuck it through after that, even into his later years, chasing another cup, and decided to do it with the team that he pursued most of his later, or most of the years in his career. So that was really nice to see for Jordan Staal. Jordan Martinook also, another just buzzsaw energy. You can just tell he's one of those guys in that locker room that everyone clings to. He's one of those guys that keeps the room light. He keeps everybody energized. He keeps everybody motivated. Just seems like a real glue guy in that locker room, and a guy that you just love seeing win. I bet he's partying it up like no other right now. Maybe Jarvis has got him beat, and his buddies, but Jordan Martinook, he again just seems like a blue collar guy, Carolina Hurricane through and through, and has been there through a lot of this as well. So nice to see a guy like that ultimately pull through as well. The fourth line, I'll just describe them all together. Robinson, Carrier, and Jankowski. Like they all had their moments. Like that's what you need in a Stanley Cup winner. They had a fourth line where three guys were big, strong, can skate, and can make the odd play. And ultimately that's all you need on a fourth line. They're all pretty cheap. I think they're all like under $2.5 million. Like they're all bought into this system of playing that fourth line. Like they're all okay with it, you can tell. And they're all effective at it. Like William Carrier, just a nice, he's going to chip the puck in, go chase it, work hard, chip in offensively every once in a while, chip in defensively. Same with Jankowski. And then Robinson, he kind of showed like Nikolai Ehlers at times with the wheels he has. Like he's a big, fast, straight line, meat and potatoes type of guy. But he ultimately, in the playoffs, you need guys like that can play in straight lines and can shoot the puck when they get a chance and beat a goalie one-on-one. And Robinson showed now and again that he can do that. So yeah, what a great forward group that team has. And yeah, I don't think that team's going away anytime soon with that group. In saying that, their defensive group, there's not much more you can say. Same as their forwards. Not a ton of high-end, like special names, so to speak, or fancy household names, but Slavin's a stud. He's going to knock down every puck that comes his way. He's going to poke check you. He's going to skate with you. He's going to rub you out. Like, you're not getting around Slavin no matter what you try. I've come to learn that now, and watching this team, like, that guy's a vacuum back there, and it's really fun to watch guys like that. Same with Jalen Chatfield. Same with Nikishin. Same with Walker. Like, I'm not going to go too much into the D-core because at the end of the day, they just all play the same way. They suffocate you on the rush. They surf. They do it all. And then you got one guy like Shane Gostisbehere that's going to chip in almost a point a game offensively. So they really have the makings of a team. They have four lines with depth. They have 6D that can play both ways. Maybe not, like I said, so much Gostisbehere, but you need that one guy that can run a power play too. So they really don't have a hole in that lineup, and that's what makes you a Stanley Cup champion. And in saying that, no holes in the lineup extends further when you have a goaltending tandem of Freddie Andersen and Brandon Bussi and the run that they went on. I would be remiss not to talk about that. Freddie Andersen, I think, went 16-4 to start the playoffs. 920, 930, something like that save percentage. Was playing like the old Freddie Andersen back in the Leafs days where I truly didn't think he got enough credit. He was one of the best goalies in the league for a good stretch of time. I definitely want to say he was top 10 in the 2016 to 2022 range, let's say. He's a fantastic goalie, and he turned back the clock. He seemed like he was healthy for once, like in a long time, like where he was truly healthy. Pucks were sticking to him. He was always in position, especially in that Ottawa series. I was noticing, like, when Ottawa had a good chance, Freddie was going to be in position. We had to beat him in position if we were going to beat him. Like, there was never a time when we made a cross crease play or a lateral play where we had him truly beat or had him out of position very often. Like, I can count on one hand, I think, the amount of times where we had that. And if we did, you usually found a defenseman getting a stick in the way or blocking it or finding a way to tie us up. Like, they're such a collective unit from goalie out. It's very impressive to watch. And another unsung hero, another story, Brandon Bussi. Like, it feels like every year when a Stanley Cup champion wins, there's always a guy that either just busted onto the scene or that they picked up on waivers or they got at the deadline that maybe was not scoring at all or not producing at all in whatever situation he was in. And they come in and they just find it. They find that spark. And Bussi just seemed to have it from this year on. And when you go and look at this guy, like on Elite Prospects or DB or wherever you check out your stats, Bussi's put up the numbers. He had to battle adversity in the null for a little bit, and then he goes to the USHL for his 21 year. That's when he popped. But if you look from there on, like when he goes to Western Michigan and when he's in the AHL, the numbers are really strong. And it's confusing to me why these goalies, yes, I understand they take longer, but they also don't take until they're 30 either. Like, we got to start identifying goalies when they put up a 920 for 2 years in a row in college. Or if they do that same stat line in the AHL, like they put up a 920 in 2 years in a row. That suggests to me that they're an NHL goalie and probably even a starter. And if you look at Bussi's track record, he did this for 4 or 5 years leading up to this. Like, this isn't truly shocking. But it's truly shocking that he took that one opportunity and ran so far with it. Like, not many guys get that one chance and just take it to the moon. And he truly did. He got a starter's opportunity this year when Tkachuk went down and Freddie Andersen was battling injuries. Carolina just needed somebody to come in and be a solidified number 3 in the event that one of these guys wasn't going to be able to go. Turns out they both can't go, so now Bussi's in. What a run Bussi goes on. 31-5, something like that in the regular season. And then comes in the playoffs and basically turns the series around in the Stanley Cup Finals. For a 27-year-old to do that, not having a contract coming into the year, getting picked up on waivers, like, kudos to that guy. Like, you really, from the personal side of things, you love seeing that. And you can tell that he's just a blue-collar, happy-go-lucky, humble human being. His wife's on Instagram. I'm sure many of you have seen her. She's posting all over the place. Like, they're just living their best life, soaking this all in, and not taking the moment for granted. And that's just so great to see. Like, you just dream about being in that moment in their shoes. And kudos to that guy. Like, you can tell the hard work that he's put in has truly paid off, and that he put in a lot of work to get here and a lot of mental work to get here because it's got to be a grind being told no that many times or, kind of being pushed aside as one of the better prospects. Like, good for that guy. And good for the Carolina Hurricanes. Good for Rod the Bod. Yeah, that guy, he's jacked. And that was pretty cool when he just picked the cup up, threw it up, caught it. Like, that's epic. That's only Rod the Bod could do that. And that team, you can tell that they've had quite the parade. They've had quite the party. Like, the city of Raleigh's really rallying behind this. No pun intended. Um, Good for them. Good for that market. Good for the NHL. Yeah, the 2026 Stanley Cup champions, the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, on to the news of today. So we'll keep this short, seeing as how I feel like this is going to be the case. I'm going to say these videos are going to be a half an hour, and then I'm going to feel like I'm not going to have enough content to fill the time. But in looking at the clock already, we're at 26 minutes. So I'll keep the Brady Tkachuk talk short and just keep it to 4 or 5 minutes here. And that's probably enough, honestly, to go over this because I'm in shock right now. And there's probably going to be a time where I want to talk more about this later on. But for now, our captain's gone. Sens fans, he's gone. Are we retooling? Are we rebuilding? What are we doing? That's what I need to know. Like, between now and Friday, are those picks being moved? Like, are we grabbing a Robert Thomas? Are we grabbing a Jason Robertson? Like, is this a move and flip? Or is this, we're going rebuild? Like, I need to know. This needs to be confirmed. Like, that matters more to me almost more than the return did. Or at least with the return, I wanted to know what the direction is. Because if it's rebuild again, and we're back to 2018, 2019, yeah, that's all I need to say or do. Um, with that aside, the Ottawa Senators have traded Brady Tkachuk to the Florida Panthers. He's going to join Matthew. And in return, we're getting the 9th overall pick this year, the 25th overall pick this year, a first round pick in 2029. So, like, currently a 13 or 14-year-old, and a 2030 second rounder. It's like, I just can't not, like, I cannot wrap my head around the fact we are not getting a roster player back in return. Like, my alarm bells rang today when Mackie Samoskevich was traded from Florida to Seattle for that 25th overall pick and then a pick next year. But I thought, it can't be for Tkachuk. Like, they're going for Larkin. Like, I could see that was a corresponding move to be had with that trade. I was just seeing through the tea leaves. My spidey senses were up. But I did not think that 25th overall pick was going to be used to get Brady. I did not think that was the corresponding move. Get Mackey back in the trade, Ottawa. Like, if we got Mackie Samoskevich and those picks, okay, we get a good roster player, 30-point guy that maybe develops into a 50-point guy in a top 6. Okay, at least he's someone we can insert into the lineup. But for now, we're left with 4 mystery beans. 2 of which I do think the 9th and 25th pick could be flipped for a guy for next year. I do think that's reasonable to assume. But if not, we're rebuilding, I think. Who are we picking at 9? Like, that almost interests me more right now, too. If that's the case. But if we're not picking at 9, we're not picking at 25, and we're just picking at 32, who are we getting? Like, these are the questions that this trade brings to me. Brady, see ya. If you don't want to be here, if you want to just unfulfill your promises, like if you push this trade, see ya. Go play with your brother. Be your entitled American self. That's fine. But if you're Ottawa and you're Steos and you're all these fans, you're wondering what the direction now is. I know there's a lot of Sens fans out there that are going to be sad and upset that Brady's gone, and rightfully so. But I think you need to be just as confused or just as concerned as to what's next. Where are we going? Because a rebuild will not be tolerable in this market. I do not think that's the case. I don't think we can redo this. You got Stutzel and Sanderson just entering their prime. You got Drake up in a year. Like, is he going to walk? Shabbat's still in his prime years. Like, there's a chance that there could be something good here. And I don't think losing Brady should just signal that we got to restart. But it does suggest that your best assets are those 9 and 25 picks now. What's out there? Like, the two names that I've heard are Jason Robertson and Robert Thomas. But Robert Thomas is a center. We're loaded up the middle. That's the one area of strength on this team. Unless you push Cousins out to the wing. But is Robert Thomas a skill playmaker, an upgrade from Brady come playoff time? Is it a lateral move at best? It's probably a downgrade in a lot of people's eyes. Yeah, you might get a few more points out of Thomas. You're going to get a lot less body checks. You're going to get a lot less presence physically. With Jason Robertson, you're getting another slow, big winger. Yes, he can score, he can produce, he can create. But he's not going to add that physical presence that Brady did. And again, it felt like with Brady even in the lineup, you needed to add a Robert Thomas, so you needed to add a big name winger, a Kyrou, whatever the case may be. Somebody, a legitimate top 6 winger, even with Brady in the fold. Now it's like, are you just going to take the assets you got for Brady and flip it for another and just basically be where you were at? It could be a tough time in Sen's land for a while here. But, optimistically, if you're a draft nerd like me and they keep the picks, Sen's got 3 picks on Friday, baby. Have a good night, everybody.